Hello, BookTube. This is Weekly Reads. My reading plan for this week was simple to read just two books. Over the weekend, the plan was to read Alexandria, the city that changed the world by Issa. This is a history of the Egyptian city of Alexandria from its foundations in the 330s BCE to the present. And over the course of the work week, the plan was to read Brotherhood of Kings, How International Relations Shaped the Ancient Near East by Amanda H. Podany. So this is a history of the relationships between various Near Eastern kingdoms over the course of several thousand years before 1177 BCE. The plan was partially successful. Over the course of the weekend, I started on Alexandria. However, this is a bail. So the book starts with the mythological foundations of Alexandria. The location where Alexandria is on the Egyptian coast has a place in Greek mythology. It is the place where Menelaus and Helen landed on their return journey to Sparta from the Trojan War. This fact later inspired Alexander the Great in his choice of location for his city. And that was okay. But the book started to lose me when, with Issa's characterization of Alexander the Great. The Alexander the Great presented in this book bears no relation whatsoever to any Alexander the Great I have read in any of the biographies I have of him. This Alexander the Great is just weird. Now, part of this could be that the Alexander that is kind of conjuring, or sort of where he's getting the sources for this interpretation of Alexander, might be from the Alexander romance, which was a fiction of Alexander's life that was gradually written and put together in the centuries after his death, and includes a number of fantastical events. And I don't think Issa really looks at this story critically, because it's not factual. I mean, now, a lot of what we have about Alexander probably should be taken with grains of salt, maybe whole mountains worth of salt, because we don't have any primary documents, or like either histories written when he was alive, or any sort of surviving archival material. I mean, there's archaeological material, but not archival documents, or not many. So that bugged me. And for much of the Ptolemaic and into the Roman period, when I bailed on the book, a lot of the sources that Issa is using is literary histories, or the surviving histories, which have a certain focus, and those chapters have a certain focus that really leaves most of Alexandria in shadow. And it just, so I was actively disliking my reading experience of this. by the time I decided to bail on Sunday, which is a shame because I would love to read a really good history of Alexandria. I mean, the problem with doing particularly early Alexandria is that Alexandria has been a continually occupied city for over 2,000 years, and it is highly unethical to excavate when there are people living there. But anyway, so this was definitely a frustrating read for me. Fortunately, my next read, Brotherhood of Kings by the Mandated Podany, was much more positive. So I took a bit of a break after I bailed on Alexandria and then started on Brotherhood of Kings on Sunday, which allowed me to finish the book yesterday. And I really enjoyed it. It is fantastic. I was a bit afraid that the book would not be as good as Podany's more recent book, Weaver, Scribes, and Kings, but well, it doesn't quite have the humor and quite the punch of Weaver, Scribes, and Kings, but Brotherhood of Kings definitely has a lot of those stylistic elements that evolved in her Podany style. So Brotherhood of Kings looks at the relationships between the copious Near Eastern kingdoms from practically the invention of writing up through to the Bronze Age collapse. And the book is roughly divided into 3 parts. The first part, the pre-dynastic period, centered mostly on the city of Ebla and its relations with both near and more distant city kingdoms. The second part looks at the Old Babylonian period, mainly the reign of Hammurabi and his successors, but it is focused on the city of Mari, which is in eastern Syria, or was located in eastern to central Syria, if I remember correctly. And then the third period is that great, glorious centuries worth of correspondence between the great kingdoms at the end of the Bronze Age, between Babylon, Mitanni, Hatti, Egypt, and Assyria. And just, that is phenomenal. And even though there are far more surviving documents than you would think, but they're still very patchy. But Podany does a wonderful, wonderful job constructing a history with these documents, and it is quite convincing. And she gives the using these fragments, these little hints of these kings, of just fully realizing what their characters might have been like. And it's just, it's brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. I really greatly enjoy her work. And I'm really looking forward to something else by her. Hopefully she's got several more histories waiting to be written. And I love, now with Weaver, Scribes, and Kings, I did criticize her conclusion. I didn't think it quite worked. Here in this epilogue, I think it actually works quite well, particularly her excitement for the possibility that she could be wrong, that future discoveries will prove or will render good chunks of this text out of date. The long lost capital of Mitanni, Washukani, might be found with the archives fully intact or largely intact, and that could throw whole new light on King Tushratta's relations with Amenhotep and Akhenaten and Suppiluliuma. I know I butchered that name, and just, it's wonderful. So one thing that I did want to address is, like particularly in the with what sources there are, that there are a lot of attention is paid in the early chapters to Ebla, and then in the middle chapters to Mari, and then a bit in the later chapters to Ugarit. And these three cities are a gold mine of documents. And the reason why they're a gold mine of documents is the unfortunate fact that these cities were, or at least the palaces, were burnt, and the archives were hardened. Since in the ancient Near East, they used a form of writing called cuneiform, in which they impressed words onto clay tablets, and these tablets could be fired and effectively turned into a form of pottery, like textual pottery. And when these cities, these palaces, were sacked and burnt, very often the archives being fired turned into kilns and preserved these documents. So that's really fascinating. So just wonderful book. So that leads me to today. I mentioned in my last video that I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to read today and over the weekend and into the last few days of January. And of course, the first few days of February, which comes at the end of this next reading week. But I've decided, I think over the course of today and the weekend, I will be reading Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. So this is a history of humanity, although a very short history of humanity. This is one of the books I have, I think, not quite for Historathon proper, but sort of one of the 12 books that I would like to have got to or get to that aren't quite, they don't easily match the period prompts. So I'd like to get to that. And then over the last 3 days of January, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm thinking manga. And here I'm a bit undecided. I could spend these last 3 days of January, assuming I finish Sapiens on Sunday, which I should, given that I'm going to get a start today. So one option is to read the first 9 volumes of One Piece by Eiichiro Oda in these 3-volume omnibus editions, which I have the first 3. One Piece is the most popular manga in the world. It has been for over 20 years now. And it's about a young man named Monkey D. Luffy who, inspired by the pirate red-haired Shanks, decides that he wants to find the One Piece and become king of the pirates. Although I'm not entirely sure Luffy ever quite knows what a pirate actually is supposed to be. But anyway, so Luffy goes on a grand adventure, builds a crew of friends, and travels across his world, having adventures, making friends, making enemies, and all the while slowly, gradually reaching the One Piece. I'm honestly a bit ambivalent about the series. I've read the first volume a few times, and it's enjoyable. I've read these first 3 volumes a few months ago, and it was enjoyable, although I'm not quite enjoying the introduction of Usopp. So I don't know really if I want to continue with the series. And this read would be basically a, do I want to continue or not? The other option is Naruto. So when I left off on Naruto by Masashi Kishimoto, I was on volume 18. So I would start with volume 19 and read up to at least volume 28. So Naruto by Masashi Kishimoto is one of the most popular manga series in the world, particularly in the US. It's about a young training ninja named Naruto Uzumaki who learns that he possesses a monster within him, the nine-tailed demon fox that on the day of his birth ravaged his home village of Konoha, which is a ninja village. This event and the knowledge that Naruto is the container of the demon fox leads the village to treat him as a pariah. And Naruto acts out by becoming the class clown, seeking attention. And he desires to become the Hokage, the leader of his village. But first he has to graduate and become an apprentice shinobi, a genin. And he gradually, over the course of the series, Naruto graduates, he goes on missions with his team, and he grows in knowledge and abilities as he fights to protect his village and his friends from those forces that seek to destroy it, including the sins of Konoha's own past. I've been enjoying what I've been reading of Naruto quite a lot. I have some problems with the beginning of the series, but later on in the series, I'm either really loving it or have loved it in the past. Because I've read a lot of the volumes in the 30s and 40s and beyond when they were coming out. So I'm enjoying this quite a bit, this reread, even though it's a bit more piecemeal than sitting down and reading the whole series at once, which I would actually like to do one of these days. So I don't quite know what I want to do. And of course, maybe my reread of, even though it was quite a bit not as enthusiastic about One Piece as I am about Naruto, that sitting down and reading those 9 volumes might change my mind. And then starting on February 1st, I'm going to start on Marie Antoinette, The Journey by Antonia Fraser. This is a biography of Marie Antoinette, which is the February book. Hopefully I did not almost say profanity there. The first book in this year's Steve Tiberius Donahue book club. And I think I might do on Monday a February TBR, which this will lead off. So you might be asking, why exactly am I doing weekly reads so early? Although I don't know necessarily when exactly you watch these videos to know when I do them. Because normally I film weekly reads at my time Friday evenings. And sometimes if I have like a free Friday during my usual filming period, which is here in Central Time, 12:30. And now I'm doing it at, well, right now it's 11:21, so almost an hour early. Well, be an hour and a half early. And the reason why is that after I wrap this up, I'm going to go through my history shelves and start to pull books for donations. I currently have 7 boxes of books that are ready to go to be donated, and I want to do an 8th box of books. And my particular target is going to be history. Because while Brotherhood of Kings and Emperor of Rome were great reads and I really enjoyed them, I also cannot say I really enjoyed either Legacy of Violence or Alexandria. And I really need to go through my history shelves and pull down the books that I've bailed on that I don't have any intention of bail redeeming, or those that I have read and I don't really see myself reading again, or rereading again. For those that I've reread several times. So that's part of my plan. I'm also seriously contemplating, once again, for what seems like the 1000th time, moving my manga collection over to the history wall, and then moving my history collection over here to what is, I guess, currently the manga wall. I don't know about that. I mean, it would give me something to do while I'm watching a live stream, because it just, over the past few weeks, I've been in this weird, annoying, uncertain space regarding my library and my reading. And while I'm not entirely happy with my manga collection over here, because obviously, if you look behind me, my fairy tale collection almost fills up these two bookcases, but there's a little bit left over here. What am I going to put in that space? It's like about 4 or 5 volumes of manga can go in that space. There's no series that's 4 or 5 volumes. I mean, I guess I could put like ones that I'm trying out, but just, and then, yeah, it bugs me. But the problem is if that over here, my manga collection is not necessarily arguing for me to go on several shopping sprees so I can fill up these spaces, because there's only 2 shelves empty. This one here is going to eventually be Naruto if I decide to keep them here, and then the bookcase over here is empty. Whereas over on the other wall, I would have 2 completely free bookcases. So I don't know. I need to really sort of, I mean, and I guess part of it is that over the past few weeks, my book buying has slowed down a bit, because I don't quite know. There's nothing that's really kind of, yeah. So I don't know. And I don't know if necessarily this makes any sense. So while I'm going through my history collection and pulling down books and deciding what I want to donate, I'll probably decide whether or not I want to go ahead and move history and manga, and see how that works out. Now, speaking of the donations, either this weekend or next weekend, depending when I finally get everything put together to actually donate the books. Right now, I have those 7 boxes. Books are boxed up, but I haven't really scheduled any sort of pickup. I don't even know if the local friends at the library would come to pick them up because of COVID. Before COVID, they did for large donations, but I don't know if they still do. I've emailed them, but I have not heard back yet. And I'm not enthusiastic about asking my brother to help, because it's always more of a production than it needs to be with him. So I don't know. But I think whenever I do finally get that donation scheduled and ready to go, the weekend before, I'm going to go through the books and kind of make sure they're okay, that they're ready to be donated, and I will then do in a 7 or 8 would be an 8-part book on haul. I was thinking of doing just one long video, but that might be excessive, and also I would need to take some breaks to drink water. Because while I can go for quite a while without needing a drink, I don't know exactly how that would work. I know when I did my manga tour, in one video, like I really needed a drink after that. So anyway, so I'm starting to ramble on. So I'm going to go ahead and sign up for now. Hopefully I will have copious videos next week, but if not, they'll at least be weekly reads and perhaps some book hauls. Well, I don't know. There's one book incoming, and I'm sorely tempted to put in some pre-orders and maybe make some orders, but I haven't quite decided yet. We shall see. Anyway, BookTube, until I talk to you next week, thank you. Have a great rest of your Friday and weekend, and stay safe.